Kathy Jan, and I was so impressed with the brush marks. And I asked the Crockers about it, and Ruth said, why don't you hybridize one yourself? Okay, next slide. Well, I eventually got it, but to hybridize with it is almost impossible because I think it's either a triploid. It's impossible to hybridize with. So in that time, we started talking about tetraploids. And Tom Greatrix, he had this tetraploid, tetra Connecticut king times tetra apricot supreme. That's what it looked like. Great big huge flowers. And I said, oh, that's nice. Let me try a tetraploid on a triploid and see what happens. Next slide. So this is what I got, an orange brush mark. Wow. And no, it was not that much of an improvement. Okay, so it did okay at the show, but it did have nice pollen. Next slide. And then I happened to brought it back home, and I was going by Courier, and I said, oh, why don't I try the pollen on Courier, just for a heck, see what happens. Next slide. Well, in 2007, what appeared? This. And I said, where did that come from? Back. Where did that come from? There was one seedling here and another seedling here. And guess what it came from? We had this one, Kathy Jan, with the tetra, getting this one, Courier, and then the genes really got mixed and we ended up with this one. And it was a quirky hybrid, as Judith has talked about. Okay, next slide. So I had crossed this one with several other lilies, and these are some of the crosses. You cross it .com with LA2307, and you get something like this. Next slide. And like this. See, there's a little bit of sparkling in that one. Next slide. And then you cross it with black spider. What do you think you're going to get? And you got these, like this, and this one. This one you sort of expected. This one was quite different. Okay, so you get some really quirky, interesting things. Now, First Lady, which was, I think it was a tetraploid, correct? Yes. And I crossed it with Big Pink, because Big Pink looked very impressive. And that was the size of it, but it only had 3 or 4 flowers. But I thought, oh, I'll get some nice pinks. Well, I didn't get nice pinks. I got a real variety of colors. Okay, next slide. And the most interesting thing was this one. You see that color? It's purple, right? Now, when I get my digital camera up, and this was in 2011, it turned reddish. And no, I could not get it. I tried 3 different cameras to get this purple color, and I never could. I ended up with this reddish color. So does that help explain things, Judith? Anyways, so you never know what you're going to get when you cross some lilies. Next slide. Samur, which is an old LA. Next slide. And this is, I crossed it with some tetra Asiatic pollen, and I got 2 hybrids. One I called cherry vanilla because it started off sort of a creamy color, and then the center would get darker and it turned whiter. The other one I called amethyst topaz. Next slide. Now this one, St. Louis pink, so named because it won the Gene Erickson Award in St. Louis in 2004. Now, look at the stem, the dark stem. Look at the spotting, right? And look at the bud. I think it had a touch of LA in it. I don't know where its origin is because all my records from prior to 2002 disappeared with my car when it was stolen. Yes, and I have 1 logbook. I've never had 1 logbook since, okay? Next slide. St. Louis pink probably had some LA and it appeared in the field of seedlings around 2000. It has proven to be very interesting for hybridizing. Next slide. You take my Maryland's freckles, and I thought it was a tetraploid. You see it's got nice pollen and the coloration. So I'm trying to get a pink on the pink, right? Okay, next slide. I was hoping for something like this, maybe, and then this is what I got. From here to here, that was all that one cross. But now look at this one. Look at the chevrons, the dark, and then there's this one too. So what Judith had talked about, you're starting to see. Next slide. See the close-ups. And next slide. And then again, look at the stem, and look at this, the shape of the inflorescence. There is this chevron, look, right? We're going to find out, it's going to be interesting. Next slide. And then you cross St. Louis pink with black spider, and this is what you get. Next slide. Now, St. Louis pink produced a number of seedlings, but the two best seedlings that I really liked was Finally and Showtime. Next. Here's Finally. Now you'll look at the inflorescence, look at the shape of the buds, look at the color of the stem. You'll see that again. Next slide. And then Night's Desire, cross Finally. And what did I get? Showtime. Next slide. Okay, let's go back now. Using black spider with Finally. What did appear? Does that look familiar, Judith? You mentioned these, didn't you?
I think you had an additional pollen here you didn't know about.
Okay, well, we'll see.
That would be what I would guess, but
I was hoping for a darker Finally, right?
Yeah.
Buying the two, and then I got this, and I said, oh, that's not what I wanted. Next slide.
Sometimes you get things that are not what you want, and they're.
I know, I should have back crossed it, and I might have got something really interesting.
You never know.
Here's St. Louis pink. Remember the coloration and the coloring here? Here's Finally's sister. It looks a lot like St. Louis pink, doesn't it? But a little darker. Next slide. Now, Showtime had a sister seedling. And what did the sister seedling look like? We got that penciling back again.
I like that, don't you?
Yes, I like that one too. It didn't like me. It didn't last long.
No.
It just did not. Okay, next slide. And my most recent hybrid is A2921, which is A104 Showtime cross Cherry Vanilla. So what do you get? See that inflorescence? See the dark stems? And you see that coloration? We're getting back to that one plant, and you'll see that the pod parent really is defining the genetics of whatever you put on it. Next slide. So my experiences with OTs. Next. We take Whiska, Friso. What do we get? Summer Dawn. I call it Summer Dawn. So that's the combination of both of them. Next slide. Now it's interesting how going down different parts, the flowers can sometimes, different roads or paths, the flowers look very similar. Angelique across Northern Carolina, this is what I got. Anastasia across Greaseback 86, they look very similar, don't they? From different paths. Next slide. And Princess Charlotte has that same color pattern. And what did I cross that with? Next slide. We took Souvenir, cross Miniature, and Miniature, I called it Miniature because it was a short OT, maybe 3 feet high max. It was from Saraband crossed with Tetra Trumpet, Sabico Tetra Trumpet pollen. And that's what I got. And it had the spade-shaped leaves, like the Little Rascal series. So that's where, next slide, Princess Charlotte came from. And you see the plant structure. It's short, very similar to the Miniature and Souvenir, because Souvenir was a miniature Oriental. So this is, it gets about the same size as Saraband, And that it had the combination of both in it. But you try to hybridize with it, forget it. Very cranky.
I still wish you would get a microscope and start looking at pollens, because it would save you a lot of time.
Yes. Next slide. Here's Roy Select.
Isn't that beautiful? Isn't it just
There's one, see, it's interesting how the colors can vary depending on the time and the season. And that came out of the field where my row up seedlings, and I don't know its background because I had some kids helping me out, and I went to the office for an emergency, and they were so helpful. They took all the labels out and put them in one pile.
That's worse than the cows stuff.
And then I came back, and they didn't want to waste time, right? So then we dug up the lilies, and I put them all in one row, and this was part of that seedling row. It happens, right? Next slide. So Roy Select cross OT pollen, and this is two of the examples. This one I called Wind Surprise, and that's the size of it is, and this is a 3-year-old plant. And the bulb was 24 inches in circumference. That was a surprise. And trying to dig out the bulb, then when it finally came out, wow. Okay, now another Roy Select cross OT pollen. This is T4107. So it's in the year around 2007, right? We'll have to remember this one. Next slide. And here's another Roy Select cross OT pollen. And OT pollen meant it was real mixed. I was trying everything on Roy Select because I was trying to get bigger flowers, trying to get the black heart or the red-brown heart.
No.
It's not real black, it's more
I think the
red-brown.
red hearts are just as beautiful, you know.
And yeah, and the big flowers. And they were good-sized, vigorous plants. They lasted. Next slide. Roy's Tropical Isle cross Roy Select, and you got a little bit of the black heart. Do they still have some of this around? Because remember there was that T806 that, anyways.
What a beautiful stem, though. Don't you just love that?
And there's the color.
I love the orientation because you know, they're always so hyper to get everything out or up, and I just love that as it is.
Okay, next slide.
Wow.
So those are different. So now we got Roy Select, we had the T4107 times Roy Select, and I ended up with this, which was I really liked, right? Now, let's do something like that again. Next slide. Oh, not quite. Okay, and then the Roy Select cross OT pollen, I got this Black Heart OT. I called it Black Heart OT Toronto. And that's what it looked like. It was barely a black heart. Okay, next slide. And I crossed that with something, and this is what I got. Not a huge plant like the other one, but I thought it was maybe oriental pollen, I'm guessing. Next slide. But you crossed, this is that black heart OT close up. You crossed it with a Lycée, which was a white OT, one of the earliest ones, and this is what I got. And I still have that. Any questions? Yes?
Yeah. You first.
Nope? Okay.
Oh, I got a question.
Okay.
So since you mentioned there are many hybrids, you also mentioned there's OT and Oriental can have hybrid, but I clearly remember most of the OTs are triploid and the Orientals are diploid. So how can you cross them together?
Well, we'll just see, because I think my opinion was that the miniature was a tetraploid, because it was a tetraploid and a tetraploid. Saraban was a triploid or a tetraploid? It was a Saraban.
Saraban is a fertile tet. Yeah.
Is a fertile tet, crossed with Sabico tetratrumpet, so I
Yeah,
ended
and
up
you
with a
can get
tetra.
You can get all kinds of numbers out of those crosses.
Yeah, so, and that's why the miniature was so exceptional, because I thought it was a tetraploid. And I'll show you, next slide.
See, if you just had looked at your pollen, you would have known which one.
Oh, that's the other thing. Pollen is everything. And hybridizing with these OTs, you have to look at the pollen. It has to be nice and fluffy. You have maybe 1 day, maybe 2 days to hybridize with it, and then it's gone. It's useless. So remember, and when the flower first opens on a nice hot day, and the pollen is really fluffy, you have a chance. It has to be a hot day, and then you can get something. Roy's Blackheart OT cross-backed with Roy Select. What did we end up?
Isn't that beautiful? I really like it.
But look at the small flower. It wasn't supposed to be
I
like
don't care if the
that.
flowers are small, usually that just means you get a lot more flowers.
Anyways, it sort of was, anyways, never mind. It's interesting how the genetics work back and forth, okay?
And I like that peachy tone in the center, I love that.
Okay, thank you. Next slide. Now, Roy Select Cross Pizzazz. This is what I ended up. Smaller flowers, nice dark heart. See, that
Isn't it interesting?
interesting how, you mentioned in Judith's comments about how the pigments are around,
Yeah,
and then you see that coming out here.
yeah.
Okay, next slide. Now, Sunny Azores cross T4107. What do you expect I get? Now, it's interesting about Sunny Azores because originally, when you look at it's a miniature Oriental, and I'm dealing with miniature Orientals because the genes have been so modified. I have a feeling there's either aneuploid in it or there's a little bit tetraploid in those guys. And the nectary, the older the flower gets, the darker the nectary gets, which is really interesting, right? So at the beginning, you don't see the dark nectary. As it ages, you get that coming out. So it happened that day. I saw this blooming and saw this blooming, and I said, okay, let me cross it with that. Okay, next slide. So I got 2 seedlings. And that was the cross, was 025. That's the one seedling. Next slide. This is the other seedling. Now, one more slide, please. You can go back. That previous seedling, this is what it looked like when it first flowered. Now, I really like this flower. I was so excited because looks so trumpety, right? It's got the dark nectary and the flecks, almost a papillae in there. So next year, it looked like this. And I said, what happened? And I said, did I get something mixed up? But no, it was the same. Next slide. So, this is how the color has progressed over the years. This is 2021, this is 2022, this is 2024 now. And can you explain that, Judith?
No, I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking it's not the color changes, those I think are not so surprising.
And it's interesting.
The flower form that's changing.
And
That's
flower
what-
form is changing.
The petals are narrower, yeah.
It's getting more Henryi and more Henryi.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Is that the one that you named?
This one?
Yeah, that buttercup Sunday?
No, that's another one.
Another different one.
That's a different one. That's interesting too.
I want you to
Okay.
cross these with pinks.
Okay. I've started to, I'm using pink jazz, okay? I've just started. Okay, next slide.
See, and if you knew those pollens were fertile. you would
Sister
have-
seedling. And look at the sister seedling. 2020, 2022, next slide, 2024. And it's pretty stable. And this one never was the shortest one, looked more like the pod parent, but I think this year, if I'm not mistaken, it'll be about 6 feet tall now with secondary, so, yeah. The other one had was about 5 feet tall with a really nice inflorescence. So we'll see. It's interesting how some hybrids you have to wait a few years to see what you're getting. 3 to 5 years, because some things
Especially if
change.
they just have one flower, then you have no clue.
Yes, yes. So remember that, okay? Next slide. So this was called Toasted and Burnt. This was 2011, and I really loved this one. That's why I called it Toasted and Burnt. Well, 2013, it looked like this. When I had it tissue cultured, it turned out orange with just the dark nectarine. And I said, well, maybe I gave him the wrong bulb. But looking back now at what happened to the other seedlings, this was going on a progression, getting darker over the years. So wait 3 to 5 years for something very special. Next slide. Now, this is interesting. This is EO 214. This is a Johann Mox ER material, which was an upright pink purple oriental across a purple trumpet. This is what it looked like. And this was in 2009. I got some special material from him. Next slide. Okay, now Sabico TL622, this one crossed with EO, this one, what do you think you'd get? Take a guess.
No.
Okay. Because I think this was Henry I crossed Orata.
I was gonna say that's an 82-111 hybrid, which was the.
Yeah, they changed the name. They changed the because that's when Sabico was shipping everything back to Netherlands, and and some of the staff were selling off some of the material, so they changed the number. And
Well,
you,
82-111 originally came from Japan anyway.
Oh,
It
okay.
came from them.
okay, okay. So you cross these two together, what do you get? Next slide. Okay, well, hang on. This is still around. I call it Toronto Rose. It's fertile both ways with OTs and Orientals. Okay, there was 4 or 5. There was 1, 2, 3, 4 seedlings. These two disappeared quickly. I was trying to keep this one because it had feathered edges. It was really interesting, but this is the one that has survived. I wish I could have brought it. It was ready. It'll be blooming today, probably. But that one, okay, that was the one cross. Okay, so I crossed E again with an OT of mine that was similar in coloring to see what would happen. Next, I was trying to get a bigger inflorescence with more color, right? Well, I got the more color, right? But this is the inflorescence. And it was about 3 to 4 feet, 4 feet high. So that's the result. Now, next slide. Now, okay, I had crossed SS is Sabico TL's 622. Remember that yellow orangey one? And I crossed it with Jaybird, and this is what I get. Whoops, back, sorry. You went too fast. So, okay. See the nice inflorescence on that? Yes. Okay, so I said, okay, let me try that with the OT17 that had the small inflorescence and the nice color, right? Next slide. And what did I get? Now, does that look like something familiar? Next slide. We start here. We go here. And what do we end up? And look how I mixed up the genes. Yeah, so this, obviously, I wish I could back cross this to that now to see what I would get, but this one's gone, so unfortunately. Next slide. Now let's go back to Gold Eaglet. And I crossed it with Purple Prince. Talk about Gold Eaglet has no pollen on it. It is totally, it's basically a filament or an anther that's nothing in there. Okay, and I crossed it with Purple Prince. And Purple Prince usually is pretty, you don't see it with much pollen. But the one day I looked at the Purple Prince it was a nice hot day. The purple prince had that fluffy pollen, so I crossed it. Okay, what would I get? Judith has already told you what I'm going to get. Next slide. What does this look like? Is that similar to one of yours, Judith?
What is it? Yeah, I mean, they're just fascinating to me.
And then there's also this one.
Releases.
And then next slide. There's this one that's starting to look real Henry I-like, and this one, just more Oriental.
I want to know what they smell like.
I know, that was the past. I know, I never checked the smell, I'm sorry.
Well, do it from now on.
I will, I am doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide. And Gold Eaglet Crossed American Heritage, this is what I got. Well, I've still got some seed of crosses with this, so I'm curious to see what it looks like. Next slide. So I'm using Rick's slide, thank you, Rick, because look at the F1 generation, the F2, and then there's the F3, which was the one. And it's interesting getting maybe some back crosses here, or even, sometimes a pod parent will do some interesting things, but you look at this generation, back crossing it, these two, you should get more mixed results. That's what I'm guessing. Does that sound reasonable, Judith?
It sounds reasonable. What makes it hard for you to figure out what's going on? It's the same problem that I had with a lot of these things. You need to get a whole lot of siblings to
I know,
tell.
I know,
So
yeah.
you can't really tell if it was random tests, if you, this,
Right.
you know.
Okay, next slide. So I've been working on dark nectaries. Now I'm trying to get larger flowers. The darker the nectary, the bigger the flower, the bigger the inflorescence, okay? Next slide. So this is Oriental Pollen, Cross Royce Select, and it was really hard to see the proper color because it had sort of a purpley, reddish brown color to it. Now I crossed it with that Oriental cross, remember the OT25, and this is what I got. You're going back to this parent again. Hardly anything showing up with this parent.
Why are you trying to breed bigger flowers for these and also
Well-
better inflorescence? They don't go together.
Well, I'm working on this. This is my
No, but I
thing.
mean, I think you've got the potential for some fabulous things just as they are.
Okay, next slide. Okay, now, you know that butterscotch OT 2814? And I crossed it with this was an ugly plant. It had more Henryia in it than it did Oriental. And it was sort of an orangey color. And this is what I got from that cross. Now, that cross was this OT 2814. You know that OT way back when? We had an OT 16009. And I crossed that with, what was it now? I forgot. Anyways, I'll show you later. And this is a new cross that just opened up this last year. This was OTO similar parent with Sunny Okinawa. This is what I get. And then this one is one of the newer ones. They're getting more of the trumpet with the papillae,
More like whiskers.
with that lovely papillae. Okay, that's what these are my latest, okay? Next. Now okay. OT 14 was the OT 2814 times this, and I got this one. And this OT 3 looked more like this. It was sort of a greenish flower with barely a dark nectary. But I got this one, and this one from the same cross. And I think you've got a couple others, haven't you, Colin, that look similar or slightly different?
Yeah, well, 4919 looks like the orangey one in the previous slide.
Okay. Next slide. Now, again, the miniature, like I said, I've been successful crossing it with Orientals. Okay, see the color pattern in it? And the shape of the flowers. Okay, next slide. So you had Angelique cross miniature. What does it look like? Sumatra cross miniature. What did it look like? You see more of the pollen parent than you do see of the pod parent. Trying to hybridize with these was almost impossible. And this one is prone to virus, and so was this one. So they lasted, 3 to 5 years, and then they sort of disappeared. Okay, next slide. Now here are a couple of mine. This one was probably the most purpley blue lily I ever had, and it was Blue Flash Cross Elegant Lady. Supposedly, okay? I can't guarantee that. But you see that, remember Fairest Elegant Lady had that rubella cross longiflora, right? Yeah. And this was David Sim seedling crossed with something I can't remember. And these are 1-year wonders. They last 1 or 2 years and then they disappear. I think this one got frozen out. And this one just died for some reason.
Why would you expect anything out of Elegant Lady to last more than a year?
Mhm.
I wouldn't expect something out of Elegant Lady to survive more than a year.
Yes, and it was a bad winter, and I should have. It did not have, because a lot of the stuff. That's one thing you have to remember about OTs. Some of the seedlings, they may not be winter hardy, because of the genes in them. You get a bad winter, and just like trumpets, you get a bad winter, and what happens? We don't know in Virginia, but anyways.
And they can come up too early, so that's what can happen.
Yes, yes.
It's not,
Okay.
It's not your fault. They just are adapted to the climate.
So next slide. So these are a few of the crosses. Some of these, this one I may still have, but you can see I did a lot of Asiatics with different crosses. This one I really liked, but it disappeared too. Okay, next slide, and that's it.
Wow.
Any questions?
Your questions for Brian?
I just want to say,
Yes.
you keep on doing it. That's what.
Brian, by the way, we did a virus, you just said very normal root drought, because it doesn't happen that quickly. Virus takes years to not plant that way.
Hold on, if you have something about Elegant Lady.
Yes,
You know,
sorry.
Bella one,
How many seeds do you get out of those OT oriental crosses?
Oh, no, I ain't disagreeing, that's a very.
How many survive?
No, how many seeds, like in a pod?
No,
Or you'll
Or-
get 5, 10, maybe 15.
Okay.
And because they're delayed hypogeo, and then you have to plant them, and then they sprout out, and I'm not good at delayed hypogeo. I'm not a seed, a species person. I probably get better results, but they're hard to keep. They're just cranky. They just don't want to grow for the first 2 years. And then afterwards, something will take over. Also, I did a problem in that because they've got such mixed genes, you don't know what type of germination you're going to get. You'll get immediate germination on them. You'll get delayed immediate, and then you get the real hypogeo. It's mixed bag. And some of the real mixed genes, you have to, for the OTs to germinate, you have to mistreat them, and then halfway through the summer, when you're about to throw out the pot, you'll see them sprouting. So they're very interesting to. Most interesting of the hybrids are the most cranky in germinating. Okay.
And none of your, sorry, Brian, none of your hybrids are tissue culture, right? They're all seed sown?
They were all seeds up until, no, the Sumatra cross miniature was tissue cultured. The one, I got some seed and I sent it to the tissue culture guy, and he put it in media, and then it sprouted, and I got that from him, yeah.
Well, it's interesting, like many of these wide crosses like this, that's still normal seed fertile. You know, that
Yeah,
is an interesting.
yeah, like last year, right? What was it? There was one pod that I crossed, the Oriental crossed with one of them. They were normal seeds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, and I always make a note of that, but sometimes what I'll do with an unripe, the pod when it still is green, if you cut carefully, you cut it So 1/3 is open, and you can see what the endosperm is like, and if it's hard and the embryo is still fine, you can just let it all dry and be normal.
Yeah, and that's what they, so
You
some of
don't
them,
ever do it.
depends on the cross. Some of them crosses, but it depends on the day too. You have to have the hot day,
Oh, yeah.
and I find now crossing them in pots,
And you're always learning something.
It's probably
never
easier.
what you expect.
and it has to be, you have to get that pollen, especially the OT pollen, it has to be that fluffy look. Now, Judith would take the microscope to it.
But I want to really see, well, does it have fertile grain, or, you know, it's like, and under the microscope, they look like bean sprouts, and if your bean sprouts sprout, then you know that it has the capability at least to do that.
Yeah.
If it has nothing in there, but it looks like the chaff from a seed pod, then you're wasting your time.
And certain of the Orientals do well, like Dizzy is good. Dizzy is one, that's good for hybridizing with, okay? And the other one was, well, and the miniature ones, like,
Vangelis, did you use Vangelis?
oh yeah, Vangelis or
Vangelis.
Yeah, I got
It's
some
very
seed from that too.
across, yeah.
It all depends on the hybrid. Some of them you get nothing, and other ones you'll get quite a bit. And I tried the like the OT 13310 because I do think there's a tetraploid, aneuploid, or at least some tetraploid in it, and it will cross with Orientals. The one seedling I got, it looked a lot like OT 13310, but a little better flower. But that was,
I do also realize some Orientals like Casablanca, those old varieties are fairly like heat tolerant and cold tolerant as well, and they are disease resistant.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, it is good for. Oh, okay. I said some of the old Oriental varieties like Casablanca, they are heat tolerant and cold tolerant as well. I tried them when I was in Winnipeg, so they are harding zone 3 and they are quite disease resistant. Do you think I can use it as a parent or pollen donor?
you might do better with some of the older varieties, because I swear the Dutch now are hybridizing for sterile flowers. And why they would do that? Because there's breeder rights. So with breeder rights, they get money, just like Johann Locke said, his retirement was built upon Siberia. Which meant every bulb that's grown, he gets a percentage, a penny, 2 pennies, or whatever, for that, because of the breeder's rights. So the Dutch now, a lot of your material in the garden, the newest material, I say is probably infertile because they do that. It's part of the package deal of releasing something, because then it has to be reproduced vegetatively and they'll get breeder's rights. Now, if they could hybridize back, then they could beat you out on something else. The other thing about the Dutch material you get now, it has to be, they put it in a cooler, the plants, because it's designed for the cut flower trade. Okay, so one of the tests they do is they take these plants and put them in a cooler. Now, just like us, you'll find out some of the flowers, if you put them in a cooler and then you took them out, and then you want to put them in the show, they don't do well. They just go plump. And when I was at the mock breeding houses the one time, the main hybridizer there was showing me around, and he said they spent $10,000 on this cultivar, and they forgot to do the cold test. And when they did the cold test, guess what happened? That's right. So they threw out everything. Wow, $10,000. So yes.
Brian, when you're hybridizing with your tetraploid OTs, how many blooms do you typically fertilize on one plant? And of those, how many sort of viable seeds do you typically
Well,
get?
the Toronto Rose, the OT 13310, you'll get 4 or 5 pods. It's quite prolific compared to most OTs. And it depends on the weather and what you've done. Like I said, as Judith said, it just depends. You got to have the right day and the right combination, and then you get a really big pod. Now the next year, you try the same thing again, nothing. Okay, but remember that fluffy pollen in the morning,
I think his question was too, how many times do you repeat across on a plant?
Some, depending on what I'm thinking will work, 3 or 4 flowers. Like the, I think it was, I used Janet, which was, that was Greaseback 86 crossed with Northern Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. And I used that one because I think there's tetraploid in it with the Orientals. And I'd get 3 or 4 pods from the Orientals from that. So I'm looking at my OTs, the ones that I think are got a good chance of having some tetraploid pollen in it before I cross it with Orientals. Okay?
Great.
I think
Any
it's
more
time's up,
questions?
isn't it?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's a fascinating life. Okay.